Okay, right into it then. So the first part of my Man of Steel cinematic experience review, which I'm going to be calling The Good, the Bad and the Ugly. As I've established with you guys already, I did take a sneak peek at the Man of Steel before actually seeing it at the cinemas because I was so concerned about the reviews and I was looking forward to this movie a great deal, and I just couldn't help myself but check it out a bit on the web. I tried my best to hold off, but because it comes out so late in Spain, I just needed to see for myself what was going on. So I apologise that this is going to be a second review on the Man of Steel. I'm starting off with the ugly aspects of this, which, as I said, is going to consist of me looking at the structure of the beginning of the story, the beginning narrative of the story, and the relationship between Lois Lane and Clark Kent, and just Clark Kent in general, and finally we're just going to look at some of the kind of messianic kind of imagery that went in the film, and this is what I'm going to look at for the beginning. So I just want to start off we start off in this film on Krypton, which was a great sequence, great action sequences in the beginning, really kicks it off in a very exciting, thrilling way, right into the midst of an alien world. However, I have to say I was fairly unimpressed by the Krypton they decided to make, because this was supposed to be a kind of quite realistic take on Superman. So I was hoping that their attempt at creating a futuristic society of advanced kind of, technologically advanced aliens might be a bit more, I thought it would be a tad bit more going for a bit of realism. What would a Kryptonian culture really be like? And I think, to be honest, they should have taken their cue from the comics, especially Birthright, which has done some really great stuff in terms of what a Kryptonian society would be like. The same with Superman Earth 1. I just think that would have been so much better. I mean, just even like a kind of shot from outside, looking at the star system that the Kryptonians are floating, or are kind of what's the word, orbiting around. The red sun that they're orbiting around. That's very old. That could have been a great just beginning shot, and then going into Krypton. I mean, I didn't like the animals that they created, that they seemed very unreal. I don't know what the dragon that Jor-El was riding was all about. That just seemed very, very silly to me. But anyway, so there's that. But apart from that, there's slight disappointment with their concept of Krypton. That's their opinion. I can't really be heavily critical of that. They thought that was the best way to kind of depict Krypton, and it was okay, yeah. And there were some cultural differences that were quite interesting that they explored. So I'm not going to be too hard on them on that. And it was a fantastic opening sequence. I just would have done it slightly different, given it a bit more reverence. But let's go straight into it. So we now have Jor-El shooting off our would-be modern secular Moses from the stars to Earth towards us, to be our savior. And here's where the film starts to, as I said, prematurely ejaculate, leaving the audience kind of thinking, well, great scene, but shouldn't something have come before that? So we cut straight from the this ship flying to Earth outside the Kent's home in Kansas, Smallville, and we got cut straight from that to Clark Kent on a shipping, like a fishing boat, and he has just come across, astoundingly, an oil rig that is about to explode, and the workers are on this oil rig, and obviously, sorry, I should say there's a lot of spoiler alerts in this, or spoilers in this, but he comes across this oil rig, and without even saying much, I mean, we don't know anything about this guy yet, nothing whatsoever. Why he is heroic or not heroic or anything. So just think about it like this: you don't know anything about Superman. Let's just clear the air and be like, okay, because this is what this film should have been or was claiming to be. Like, say Superman had, from the 70s had never been done, and we're just starting this character anew. What would that film look like to fit the sensibilities of a modern, more cynical age? So anyway, we know nothing about this character, very mysterious, and he goes straight off and he saves these guys, completely displaying his powers, quite out in the open to these random people, and a lot of them that obviously are going to report this guy who can seemingly just be on fire and it doesn't affect him, and who can crush through steel like it's nothing. And so he saves them, and that's fine, because you're like, okay, well, I don't know anything about this guy. Maybe that's the way he was brought up, and he's got these superpowers and whatever. So the oil rig eventually explodes after he saved these people, and he's lying Christ-like, one of the many Christ-like images in the film, in the water, essentially kind of floating in the water. Cut to first flashback. This first flashback has fuck all to do with this exploding rig, right? The flashback doesn't relate to it at all. It flashes back into Clark Kent as a little boy in class, discovering his, that he can see, he has X-ray vision and can see through people, and he's completely freaked out by the fact that he can do this. Okay? Alright. Interesting. Okay? He runs off into some cupboard, hiding from his, his teacher who's trying to get him out. And finally Martha Kent comes and, gives him a little speech to help him control his powers. And he comes out and he hugs her. Flashback end. Brilliant fucking scene. It's a brilliant, brilliant scene. In fact, both of these scenes were both brilliant. Him saving the people on the oil rig, him in class, I felt like a tiny bit of heartstrings tugging, like, oh wow, like how hard it is to be Superman. But they had nothing to do with each other, and you don't know anything about this character. You haven't seen the little boy be normal, first of all, and then have this moment where he discovers his powers. You haven't seen Clark Kent do anything. You haven't seen the relationship between Martha and her son before, so that you can understand like this moment where she's like giving him these words of advice that are so meaningful to him. So none of that is set up, and that's a real problem, because whereas these scenes should have had massive resonance and an emotional tug on you, they have absolutely none, because they don't make any sense. Next bit, straight after this, we cut to Pearl Jam. Superman's running away. You know, he's got away from the oil rig or whatever. So we're back in modern, the kind of modern day Clark Kent, and he's running, like trying to find clothes because all his clothes are burnt up and whatever. Steals somebody's clothes like a vagrant, and then kind of walks around, you know, Smallville. Okay, fair enough. Maybe we're going to get a little bit of character development now. I'll find out a little bit about this older Clark so that we can care about him doing this amazing thing that we've just seen him do. Nope. Instead, for some reason, he sees a school bus. Seeing a school bus is enough to trigger yet another memory. This has all happened within about like under 15 minutes. Okay, under 15 minutes of screen time, and I understand that, you know, there's this whole kind of ethos in Hollywood of short, like, you know, kind of get to the point. And this is a classic kind of attempt in writing like this. So we've got to this point. Superman sees a school bus, triggers another memory. What the memory it triggers? Some guys bullying him, and they're bullying him at school, on a school bus, and they're calling him a bit of a prick and whatever, being very, very nasty to him, and he can't do anything because if he even lays a finger on this guy, he's probably going to kill him, obviously, as we all know, because he's Superman. So, you know, he ignores it, and then out of nowhere, the wheel of the bus explodes. The bus, it goes over a bridge, and again we have Clark Kent saving the day. Barely even had a word of dialogue up until here. Nothing. No existential crisis, nothing. We know nothing about this guy up until this point. Okay, so he saves the bus, and then the next thing we know, we're in a scene where, you know, we're talking about, you know, the people who saw him save these guys from the bus, you know, falling off this bridge. And then we get the scene with the father, and the father giving him a lecture after the mother's giving him a lecture, and this time the father's saying, you've got to hide this side of yourself, you can't show people all of these things. Which means, wait a second, isn't this the guy who just saved a bunch of people from an oil rig and blatantly displayed his powers? What's going on here? I don't understand. He you know, I could understand if he saved the people from the bus and then his dad said, you know, put the fear of, you know, whatever into him, because, you know, if everyone finds out, they're going to be freaked out by it. And then, you know, you see some character development for him to save the people on the oil rig, but no, there's none of that. We just go straight into this, you know, fear, paranoia, kind of issues with, you know, Clark Kent telling the little Clark Kent that he can't show his powers. So you've got a real muddle here, and you're kind of confused. You know, where's this character coming from? And then we cut into a next scene of him in a bar. He's in the bar. He overhears about some alien ship. For some reason, you know, government army, top secret officials are talking about, you know, a ship somewhere in Alaska, and you know, again we get Clark Kent doing something heroic for no apparent reason, you know, but this time at least he doesn't show his powers, so at least it's consistent with what has been taught to him by his adopted father, Clark Kent. Okay, good. So we've got all of this out of the way. We've had like 3 major action pieces where you should have been really emotionally engaged, because if they had have shown just a little tiny bit of character, we would have been like, wow, you know, he did that, you know, that's amazing. It's exactly what Batman Begins did, and this is why I've always said Batman Begins is a superior movie to The Dark Knight. This movie molded itself after The Dark Knight as opposed to after Batman Begins, and that is where the crucial problem lies in this. Action piece, action piece, action piece, no character development. It's not a good idea. The only reason I cared at all and had any emotion concerning these action pieces is because I knew who Superman was. And I'd read the comics. If I didn't know who this guy was, I wouldn't give a shit about anything I'd seen so far. And that's a real problem. That is not good storytelling, and I don't think it's Zack Snyder's fault, actually, because his directing is brilliant. The way he shoots these scenes is fantastic. This is a storytelling point. He maybe should have known better and said, look, you've got to rewrite this to at least have one little bit of character revelation, so that we know who this Clark Kent is, and we know what his struggle is with either hiding his powers or showing his powers, or something along the lines where he saves these guys but doesn't show them that he's saving them. He does it so quickly that they don't even know what's happening. That would have been more to the point of Pa Kent's kind of teachings than what we've seen. So we have all of this point, and this is like a main criticism of this movie, which I don't even think the critics have pointed out, is that if you read the Birthright comic and some of the more modern comics, there's a lot of development before Clark Kent actually goes into doing his heroic things, and there's a layer of the way the Kents teach him both that he should do good, but yet maybe the world isn't ready for him. So now I'm gonna have to stop the video and do the rest of the ugly and the bad in the next section. The reason is because my camera has some problems and it will cut out if I don't do it. So okay, see you in the next section.